A dark sphere appeared before me in the center of the room. Scud, was I really going to do this? In my hand, Doomslug fluted nervously. The sterile, whitewashed walls, enormous one-way mirror, and metal tables marked this as some kind of scientific facility. I was on Starsight, the massive space station that housed the regional offices of the Superiority. Up until this past year, I'd never even heard of the Superiority, let alone understood the nuances of how it, as a galactic government, ruled hundreds of different planets and species. To be honest, I still didn't understand those nuances. I'm not exactly a "there are nuances to this situation" type of girl. I'm more of an "if it's still moving, you didn't use enough ammunition" type of girl. Fortunately, nuance wasn't needed at the moment. The Superiority was undergoing a violent military coup, and the new people in charge did not like me. The shouts of the soldiers calling to one another as they searched the facility for me grew louder. Hence the dark sphere. My only way out was to open a portal to another dimension. I thought of it as the nowhere.
"Spensa,"
Mbot said.
"My thoughts. They're speeding up?"
He hovered nearby, having stuffed himself into a little drone. It was shaped vaguely like a box with wings and a pair of grabber arms on the sides. 2 tiny acclivity rings, blue stones that glowed when powered, allowed it to hover, one beneath each wing.
He said, "that does not look safe."
"They use these nowhere portals to mine acclivity stone," I said. "So there must be a way to return once you go through. Maybe I can get us back with my powers." The shouts outside were getting closer. There were no other options. I couldn't use my powers to hyperjump out of this place, not with the shield that protected the station.
"Spensa,"
Mbot said.
"I feel very uncomfortable with this."
"I know," I said, slinging my gun over my shoulder by its strap so I could grab his drone by the bottom of its chassis. Then, Mbot in one hand, Doomslug in the other, I touched the dark sphere and was sucked through to the other side of eternity. In a flash, I was in a place where time, distance, and matter itself didn't exist. Here I was formless, a mind, or an essence, with no body. It was as if I were a starship floating in an endless blackness with no stars, with nothing at all to interrupt my view. Every time I hyperjumped using my powers, I briefly passed through this place. I was accustomed to the sensation, but it wasn't familiar. Just slightly less terrifying than it used to be. Immediately, I reached my mind out, searching for Detritus, my home. I'd begun to understand my powers in the most basic of ways. I couldn't go many places with them, but I did know how to get home. Usually. This time, I strained. Could I do it? Could I hyperjump to Detritus? The blackness around me seemed to stretch, and I could see white spots in the distance. One of those was Gran? If I could connect with her, I thought I could pull myself to her. I pushed harder, but grew worried that I'd draw attention. The Delvers lived here. And as soon as I thought of them, I became aware of their presence out there in the darkness. All around me, yet invisible for now. They didn't seem to have noticed me yet. In fact, they were fixated on something else. Pain. Terror. Something was in pain in here.